This is what it's like going through security at a council meeting, April 19th.
Good evening.
Hello.
How you doing today?
How am I doing? I'm recording here, by the way,
Okay.
just to be fair to you.
Thanks for letting me know.
They're going to start paying your boss here overtime
I'll get over it.
for all the time he ejects me from the meeting.
You don't have to empty your pockets.
You sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to be totally compliant here.
Nope, you're good. Thanks, appreciate it. Might turn around for me? Thank you. Do you mind if I switch your bag real quick?
No. I got the camera out in there.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. Yep, alright. Thank you.
I got my glucometer in here if you want to check my blood sugar.
Your what? Oh, okay. That'll be fine.
I
Thank
think
you.
there's a couple of candy bars in there if you're hungry.
I'm good, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Officer Slaywalk, unit number 27.
That's okay. I had to put my glasses on to see it.
Yeah.
At that particular place?
I know guy I used to coach football with, and Donnie Grangy looks up there.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
And Dave. Two others.
Yeah, yes.
See the one that lives down there in the Woodland? Grangy Boulevard. Yeah. Yeah, him and I guess Charlie Selner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's moving to Florida.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Gregory sold their property. Here's the Yeah, Charlie sells yachts down here too. Big yacht salesman.
This is not a council night.
No, this is a committee of the whole.
Since it's not a council night, it should be a special committee of the whole.
Okay. I
Well,
don't think it was out of
wasn't
order.
it? Yeah, I don't.
I'm sorry?
I don't
We
think
just
it was
moved
out of
it.
order,
No.
because the only thing we did is move it
Move
from
the
Monday
date.
to Wednesday. We didn't change the order. The last meeting was
Council
council
meetings,
meetings.
first and third, committee meetings, first and third Monday. Council meetings, second and fourth Monday. This is not a council night.
That's one way of looking at it.
Why didn't we have a committee of the whole Monday night?
We changed it to tonight.
Or where's the committee meeting that we had to have on the 19th?
It's tonight.
I mean, council meeting. You said Daryl said we had to have a council meeting on the 19th.
Tonight. Is it today the 19th?
This is not a council meeting.
Is today the 19th?
This is the committee of the whole.
Correct.
Okay. What's your point?
Are we having a council meeting tonight?
We're having a committee of the whole tonight.
So what Daryl wanted on Wednesday, the 19th, is not gonna happen.
Chairman Revolt called a meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee, which is happening tonight.
That's not the way it was presented last Monday. And you guys spent 8 minutes
Right.
jockeying around. Should we have two meetings on two different nights? Combine the meetings? I left here thinking there were gonna be a committee of the whole on Monday and a council meeting on Wednesday.
That's not the way we
There is
said
no
it.
council
We'll
meeting.
go back and listen to the tape.
It wasn't on the winter, the bubble wrap probably had a hat on, so you didn't see that I share your husband's haircut, so.
Look back at it.
This city is in chaos.
It's not.
The only reason it's in chaos is you
You
try to
have,
put
because
It's,
it is
it's
a
chaos
chaos.
because
That's what
of
you're
how
trying to
people
do.
do it.
You're trying to make chaos.
Yeah.
I am not.
Order. That's what you're doing.
We
Right.
published the next
And you
day
follow
on
Mr.
our
Revolt,
website.
who
Literally
totally
the next
forgets
day.
how he
Yeah.
functioned for 40 years, and now all of a sudden we gotta change it all. And Pat,
I disagree.
you forgot how we used to function as well.
The rules have changed since I came back. We don't do it that way. We used to have 3 people on a
Yeah,
committee. We don't have
Mr.
3.
Stroya, in his first term, said we want to make government more efficient. That means taking the public out of the whole process.
To you, it does. That, I agree with that. It does, to you.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah. Nothing. Agreed.
Ben.
In the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
You did one.
Well, really,
Tracy
they're
in
up
her office.
from this morning.
She even
I did turn on the
I think Crow.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I gotta get these. Where'd you
It's
get them?
on Amazon.
Well, last time I did, and it was 80 degrees. Right when we left.
It's a little mess.
I love it.
About to fall asleep again.
Just thought of Christmas present.
I put that in a few weeks ago to capture the mayor. I had to watch where the mayor's
Was this your first one or have you been to Canton?
No, it's my first one.
Welcome.
Do more often.
Do I get a sticker? Little star. Like you go on a plane for the first time, you get wings.
I have Skittles I pass out.
Yeah.
They're drawers.
There might be a banana in one of them too.
There is one of them, yeah.
You guys adopted a schedule for the year?
Very much before me.
Maybe shopping.
Could be. Could very well, yeah. I'll come in with this bounty. Yeah.
How are you? Long time no
Hey,
see.
sir, how are you? Good to see you.
Technically, they're allowed.
What's up, buddy?
Here you go.
Okay.
Try to find those. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
always
right.
a sister.
She's like,
What were the, what size you wear?
Who is it? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Yeah, exactly. You could, but you broke the news. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember where I got those.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to look at it, yeah. I think it's.
Because the one year we had whatever that one
Okay.
was.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. We'll figure it out. Sir.
I know.
Good one, how are you, sir?
It's great.
How long you been
Yeah.
Tell them what you did wrong.
How long am I? I've been in it for 16 years. I've been in this area for 5.
history of Edward Dawson's down in Edward Dawson's?
I'm very familiar with this.
She made one at.
I'm very familiar.
She knows about she spelled it out.
I've been telling you, you know, the A&E, the superintendent. Right. And they did.
Probably start making
Conversation I had with a client, and I disagreed if we were wrong. Ultimately, the Supreme Court came to their decision.
We thought you'd be here late.
We changed things again.
A lot of people.
Good. I found out now, there's a John, the Akron Children's Hospital. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, no, she still has this one day off. It's paid, yes. But she did have to transfer.
It's helpful.
Wade,
I'm doing well.
Learning a lot. 18 is here. I want you to walk.
Yeah. Okay. Is there? I gotta go. Okay. Yeah, but I kind of. Yeah, I was gonna say. Let me just think, why do we say
Mr. Replacer.
Yes, sir.
As you guys agree
You know,
to,
my daughter had heart surgery today. I'm not going to I'm sorry. I'm emotional.
this is not a council. This is a Wednesday.
Sister Stroya. Chuck has some concerns.
I already spoken to
Okay,
him.
great. He's the one who calls me.
This should be a special committee of the whole, because it's not a council.
Okay, if that's all you got to pick out, that's fine.
Thanks, Chuck.
Okay, duly noted.
You spent 8 minutes last week talking about what we're gonna have. I came away with Daryl wanted a council on Wednesday the 19th. And there was a discussion of whether we should have 4 meetings at the same night. I came away with everybody in agreement. We have to do the whole on Wednesday. And the council meeting on Wednesday.
It's not what I came away from.
Listen to the video. And I would always leave the whole council members. He doesn't understand that. And I was trying to come to you ready last week, because you were trying to call attention to everybody.
And I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I asked and I was given the answer that I was looking for. And
He didn't even give you a chance to even get your question. He didn't even come in, ask the question. He goes, look, go right ahead. We're not even following any of our rules at all.
I disagree.
Well, the council rule, right, it's council rule 40 or something says, whoever would like to respond, ask the president, may I respond to this citizen? He didn't even get a chance to get that out of his mouth. Hope you got it okay. Was it just kind of minor?
Minor heart surgery.
Okay. Have you guys known it for this issue for a while?
About 2 months, 3 months. She had SVT.
Had what?
Supraventricular tachycardia.
Okay.
Racing heart.
Well,
Thank you, Chuck.
The budget for this year, budget was
Chuck, I'm sorry about the way that I acted when you came up. It's been a day. I've been up since 5.
I understand. I would be beside myself.
Emotional roller coasters.
Yep. Katie taking it okay?
Yeah.
removing, well, we definitely have to sign up already on the test.
How about your mother?
Well, she's got enough to worry about with my dad, so. He's over it, the Windsor right now.
And so we're gonna keep the staff going forward, they're just taking that into there.
Seems like he's getting worse and worse by the day.
Yeah. I got an aunt who's 87, and she thinks my sister is an old high school classmate.
Well, it's almost daily calls from my dad, wanting to know when we're coming to pick him up.
It's sad, it just brings you to tears.
It does. How are you doing?
Well, glad you're here, but.
You look like you should live in Colorado. People hate you. I love that lot.
Yeah, I saw Terry's too, yeah.
That was right. I had to send out an email to Border Control. I think it's a big frowny face at the moment. No, but I think no.
Why do you think we use that?
I don't have the app, so I was just sitting there pressing the desktop button.
And so
That's the real problem. The website.
Like you need to hear. I know. Yeah, I handed him, he said I knew it was us.
Yeah, I've known, I knew that. People before.
Today's Wednesday.
Bad commercial location, but heritage, they were trying to say something. When it was up on the corner of the truck.
My phone's a little bit. Polish nervous young people. I said, where are you? And I said, over there. So yeah, now where's your Polish? The cities. Oh, silence yourself.
I know, I didn't think I was going to.
And you found Jennifer when I told you?
Yeah.
Okay. So lively out there. We're having, I saw you doing things. I thought maybe you were doing.
Yes, it's just all.
I appreciate it. You know. Like you were open, like from us, and we had leadership. Yes. So we had them come, and I think all of them. And then we're gonna have another. Serious? I went.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Is that how you answer?
I got it, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
The middle, what have you done with the table?
How was the website doing? It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw that. Whatever, right?
The whole city.
I did too.
She'll be on.
Oh, yeah. Well,
He's just.
oh, that's nice. Good. Yeah, they're really good about that. The beer, wine. As for the
Also makes
Hey, Mayor. How are you? Okay, sir. Good evening.
One moment.
Ready when you are, sir. I understand.
I now call to order the committee of the whole meeting of April 19th, 2023. The time is 5:01 p.m. And would you please call the roll?
Member Schroyer?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
Member Holt?
Here.
Member McLeister?
Here.
Member Waring?
Here.
Members Wyrick and Matheny have joined us via video call but do not count as present and may not vote.
Motion to excuse Wyrick and Matheny.
So moved, or excuse me, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Start off with community and economic development. At this time, I'll yield the floor to the administration.
Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Yep. Oh, okay. You can do that.
I will. But thank
It's in my
you.
instructions.
Thank you, President Stroya. We're here tonight in part because the city has concluded the largest and most complicated economic development project in its history. Some context. North Canton is an old community. As Mayor Wilder says, we're operating in our second century as a city. Old communities are at great risk to become tired, to decline, to decay. With that, the quality of life in the community also deteriorates. Cities can and do successfully resist decline. Our efforts, people in this room, previously and tonight, have introduced a new award-winning park, plan another on the way. We have new zoning for Main Street. We have a property maintenance code, rental registration, and land banking. Development and redevelopment are critical elements in community preservation. Without revenue, a city cannot provide adequate services or improvements essential to maintain a quality of life. Our city runs on income tax. but the vast majority of North Canton residents don't pay a dime of income tax in this city. That income tax stays in cities where they work. Our income tax comes from people who work here but live elsewhere. So, as the administration will soon detail, we have eliminated a major eyesore. We have secured additional capital investment, significant capital investment in this community, and a high level of jobs that many communities our size would be envious to attract. Importantly, our partner, the school system, will be the beneficiary of the property taxes from this project. In just a few moments, the administration will, in great detail, walk us through this project. But it's important to recognize that this is the confirmation of what we jokingly say is if you control the dirt, you control the project. Land banking can work, and we've proved it. This project, more importantly because I think is a huge success, will resonate through Stark County, identifying North Canton as a place to invest and to do business. Success can, and often does, build upon itself. And I think we've set a wonderful foundation for the future here. Before I conclude my remarks, however, and they are brief, I want to introduce or turn the floor over to Patrick DeOrio for a discussion of this project in the details.
Thank you, Chair, Council, Mayor, former mayors, distinguished guests. Woke up this morning, thought about what we wanted to go over tonight, and of course we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation here, but to capture the mood, a song occurred to me this morning. All of you know I'm big into the songs and that. And so, but you're embarrassed to say perhaps it's a Pointer Sisters song. But I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it. Yes, that's where we are. So I chose my fashion ensemble today to reflect the seriousness of what we're going to go through. Black and white. It's in black and white today. There's no color. There's no fuzzy math. There's no missing ground. It's all here in black and white. All the gory detail. Nothing to hide. Proud of what we've accomplished here, of what this team has accomplished here. So, we're talking about disposition of certain city land bank properties, and these three parcel numbers, which existed in the past, are in reference to the Kmart area properties. So, when we started this endeavor, we had to know that there were certain knowledge aspects that we were not going to be very good at, and we needed to assemble a team of experts, people with a lot of experience that were going to help guide us through this matter. So I'm going to just go down this list here with you. So Steve Wilder, the mayor, we know of his decades-long career of service and engagement within the North Canton community. But let me say, for the record, that this project would never have occurred without Stephen B. Wilder being elected mayor. Unquestioned. When he came into office, was in late 19, as you know, and the pandemic started in March, and there were critical decisions that had to be made prior to the pandemic. The Kmart property was for sale. The Kmart businesses were being shuttered nationwide. There wasn't going to be anything left. There was going to be another empty building, a big one. And we had to make a decision, were we going to make a play for this? Wanted to know the facts. What are the risks? Can we mitigate the risks? Can we manage the risks? What is the potential outcome? All those discussions were had before we made a move on the Kmart property. And it should be said, we were not the first. We were the backup bid for this. So as fortune made smile upon us, it came our way. Myself as the administrator, Darryl Revolt, former North Canton mayor with decades of experience in economic development at the Ohio Department of Development and the Office of Congressman Ralph Regula. Can't underestimate Darryl's influence still within the ranks in Columbus, that were able to get us information, get us levers moved in order to make this project go forward. Nate Green, Director of Economic Development for the Montrose Group, decades of county and state economic development experience. Terry Moore, Senior Partner, Krugliak Wilkins, Griffiths and Doherty, decades of experience in commercial real estate law and development. Wayne Boyer, our Director of Law, but also the Head of Commercial Real Estate Development for Krugliak Wilkins. And Sean Sanford, the Vice President, NAI Spring, decades of experience in business attraction, site selection, that's key, and real estate sales. That is our team. Some of them are here with us this evening. You know Terry and Wayne. Sean Sanford sitting right here in this row. Excellent. So now we put together a team, but we had to have a plan. What's the plan? How are we going to move forward? Have we ever done this before? Is there anything to draw upon? No, there isn't. So we better come up with some guiding principles. This was adopted at the time the Kmart purchase was made, 3 years ago. And it's been our guiding principle since. This isn't something that was made up after the fact. Number one, is there payroll density? Not interested in self-storage. No jobs there, no income tax. As Councilman Revolt indicated, it's about that. So we wanted something with high job density, something that gets us into the hundreds and hundreds of jobs, something that we can build upon the success of Acton Children's Hospital, which is located here, and brought in hundreds and hundreds of jobs, and what we've also experienced now with Diebold next door, bringing in hundreds and hundreds of jobs. That's the success that we're trying to mimic. Is there growth in the industry or sector? So it requires some financial analysis of who the potential buyers or tenants would be, and how are they performing as an industry group or a sector group. We certainly weren't interested in an industry group that was going to come in and then fall on hard times in 3 years and be out the door and have another vacant building. So we're looking for something with staying power. Will there be desirability of the remaining land, if any? Our goal is that we want to disperse 100% of the land. I don't want any left. I don't want to have the city be in a long-term landlord business arrangement. So we would like to sell it all. And we should say that every group that has come through and talked to us has looked at carving up these parcels in a different way that benefits them, and there always was remaining land. But is the remaining land desirable, or are we going to be just stuck with it? Will the businesses or the jobs persevere in an economic downturn? Well, could probably add pandemic to that too. And there are certain businesses that can weather the economic storm. Is there substantive capital investment in the facilities? Was not interested in any offer that involved keeping the existing Kmart building. Has to be torn down. We want it torn down. We want the capital investment. Why? For the schools, as Councilman Revolt had said. Substantive capital investment yields to substantive property taxes. And that's what the schools run on. Will there be community engagement opportunities? Again, in looking for the ideal buyer of this property, we're looking for someone who is, all you can see, looking for someone who wants to engage in the community. I'm not interested in distant corporate ownership in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It could care less about what's happening in North Canton. I want people that will engage in this community, that will sponsor sports teams, youth athletics, the YMCA, the library, that will be involved in this type of activities. Will there be is there minimal incentive assistance? Yes, we would like to do this without providing any income tax abatement. We would like to do it without providing any property tax abatement. Will the business's presence create a leveraged opportunity? There are certain businesses out there who are so important and are known nationally that if they locate there, they will bring all kinds of other developments surrounding the adjoining parcels. And again, that drives property valuations up, that drives property taxes up, that brings jobs. Is the land property zoned? When we bought it, it was zoned GDB for the most part, so if we were looking to bring in somebody that was going to do some type of manufacturing, and there were companies that we talked to that were interested in locating some manufacturing facilities there, albeit not very big, but it would require a massive rezoning, and not sure that it would be conducive to the commercial and the residential development there. Is there a foreseeable path to generate profits that can be invested in other development projects in the city? It's about, we don't want to go down this road, choose these partners, and have it be such that the city loses money. Can't have that. And we don't have that. But we want to be able to take those dollars, those profits, and leverage it into something else that we can continue this story somewhere else in the city. Those are the top 10 requirements. That has always been in our mind on every person and every entity that ever came to us. And how many of those boxes can we check? So, for your aerial view pleasure, December of 2021, that's what the land looked like that we bought. And we'll get into the parcels in just a second, but to give you some idea, to get yourself oriented with the slide, the landmarks are kind of put in there so that you see in the big white rectangle in the middle, the North Canton Farmers Market symbol on that. That was the actual building, the Kmart building, so it gives you this example of the size dimension of what we're looking at. And that's approximately 90,000 square feet. Okay, so what are the three parcels? I color-coded them to make this easy for you to understand and see. And as we get into this discussion, we're going to start talking about these parcels really by the name of who owned them. But I'm going to introduce that now so that it becomes more familiar with you. The blue parcel, where the Kmart store was not owned by Kmart. So if we say, well, the Kmart property, that's not the Kmart property. That's the Seritage property. Seritage is a real estate investment company that was formed to receive property assets from Sears Holdings. And as you know, Sears Holdings bought Kmart. So that was an asset of theirs. So Sears Holdings released this property to Seritage and then rented it, leased it back to the Kmart business until they went out of business. This is the Seritage property, and it came with a Burger King on it. The tan-colored parcel, which is a wooded area, is a parcel that was owned by Kmart. Kmart that was in federal bankruptcy court, and was one of the obstacles, challenges that we had to go through to be able to retain this parcel, is going through bankruptcy trustees, bankruptcy lawyers, bankruptcy courts, and pandemic, and trying to get decisions made during that time frame. But we were successful in acquiring that parcel. And then the far one on the left, the yellow parcel, was owned by JRK Properties. It was zoned residential, and it's approximately 5.5 acres, as we'll see in the next slide. But those are the three parcels, and you see how that land was broken up there. So, acquisition details. The Kmart building, Seritage owned, was acquired May 26, 2020, at an acquisition price of 3.4 million. The zoning, the initial acreage on there was 9.4 acres. I'm sorry, I didn't get my glasses. Yes, I am getting older. Thank you. Okay, 9.48 acres, commercial property GBB, included the former Kmart facility. And what we should note just right here, we won't talk about it anymore, but it's apropos given where we're at tonight on this glorious day. It was the site of our weekly farmers market, year-round. To this day, because of the investment we made there and allowing them to operate and move in from the summer into the winter, we established the only year-round farmer market in Stark County. Yes, and we transferred that to here, and that's what you saw out there today, and that has stuck with us. They've come through the winter, they've turned this into their marketplace that is thriving and still going very strong. And the Burger King was leased to us on a, sorry about that, Burger King building leased to us monthly. Now mind you, this was a lease that goes back 30 years, and the terms that were developed for it then were very favorable to Burger King and not to successive owners of the property. We'll get into more of the numbers later on. Next. The yellow parcel, we bought it September 15th, 2020. Acquisition price, $150,000, 5.5 acres, vacant residential land. The Kmart property from the bankruptcy court we acquired March 29th, 2021. Acquisition price $450,000, 15.11 acres, undeveloped commercial land. And what's important is that we acquired all three of these parcels prior to the knowledge that Meyer was coming here. And that's important because what we saw is that after Meyer came here, that became public, the pricing on land in the surrounding areas started to move up dramatically. So the fact that we were able to get all this, get it acquired before a major development announcement came is very important to our bottom line. So in February 2021, around the 22nd of the month, we had culminated some information that led us to an initial development proposal that we were thinking about. So we're going to show that slide now. So the early proposed development looked at a mixture of retail and office. And you see these squares that were drawn, and this was working with our experts to try to optimize the number of parcels that were available and to be able to configure a valuation for them. And you'll notice through there the black heavy line that says proposed new access roads. This was to be able to give frontage to all the properties, all the parcels, and as a result of that, we felt that that would generate significant additional dollars. Now, some of the ones you see have numbers in them, like infill number 1 says 500,000, infill number 2 is $1 million. And these numbers that we were able to put in here are a result of actual discussions that we've had with people that indicated where we might be on a price point. The other ones that just have dollar signs in them, $2 signs or $3 signs, was just for your illustration purposes and which ones we felt were of more value than the others. August of 21, now mind you, we're moving through COVID here. Things are changing. And it's becoming clear that certain types of development are not looking very favorable in the sense that owners of commercial office space are not so convinced that they want to be building office space. So things start to change. So a large buyer had come to us with a proposal for their business, and they were looking at what you see now as the gray area, so the parcels that are kind of gray. They still wanted the proposed access road to go through, but this is what they wanted to acquire. And if you add those two numbers together, the 750,000 and the 3.45, it comes up to 4.2 million. And that's what we were looking at as a to sell this particular site. It would give us three things left. We call them infills and then one outlot. And we still felt that that out lot on the corner, we could probably get the $1 million for it, and then we would have to find tenants or buyers for the rest. So to recap, just so far before we get to the final show, 36 months. 36 months. May of 20 to April of 23 is all the time we're talking about, and we've gone through a lot of stuff in that period, the pandemic. What did we do? We assembled an experienced economic development team. We developed an effective COVID-19 strategy, meaning we had to be flexible. If we were going to be dogmatic about it, we would probably still be holding these parcels today and realize no gains here. We secured financing at record low interest rates, more on that later. Acquired multiple parcels with a combined area of over 30 acres. Captured significant interest for our most valuable remaining land. There isn't a lot of developable commercial land of this size in North Canton. In fact, it's the only piece of this size in North Canton. The other one that would be next would have been the Altman Brothers property out on the market now, but at the time that we were doing this, that was still owned by the Altman Health Foundation, and it was zoned park and institution. Waterside, which is another commercial tract that's available, is only about 7 acres to give you comparison. We fostered a cooperative, progress-focused relationships between city and key community groups, and I can't emphasize this enough, between this council and this mayor, working with the schools, working with civic groups, nonprofits, to develop a team approach to moving this city forward. So we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, and that's critical. That didn't exist before. We had councils and mayors that were at odds with the school and their success. We've successfully established development plans for all the property that was earmarked for commercial use. So this is the final development plan. Don't do it yet. Yeah, so this is it. Now, what you might see might shock you, because we're actually going to show the corporate logos of what's coming into this development. And we should note that we were able to sell 100% of the parcels that we bought for commercial development. 100%. All of it gone. And all of it at a very handsome financial gain to the city. So some of this is going to be new information that you don't officially know, that we're going to make officially known tonight. And after this slide, so I want you to, when we show you this slide, I want you to just look at the logos, look at the layout, look at how it's working, okay? Because the next slide after this one, we'll get into the numbers, we'll get into the details, the costs, the expenses, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want you to be thinking, oh my God, what is it? What's it cost? How's it going on? I want you to just absorb and look at what is about here. So could I have my staff do a drum roll, please? Yay! Woo! Yes. Okay, so we're going to go kind of from left to right, top to bottom, just because that's how I am. No particular rhyme or reason. The green strip. This was 5.58 acres, zoned vacant residential land. We weren't sure if we were going to need that for this development. At any point, we weren't sure, but we knew that if we did need it, it would be better to get it before everybody knew that we needed it, so we could get it at a good price. Now, at some point in the past, somebody thought about building residential there, and anybody with any type of sleuthing experience would be able to know that that particular strip is heavily mined. But so is everything else on that area over there. Those streets loop. I live not far from here on Arnsby Circle and Eastwind. And we know in our understanding that there are mines, and today, you know, if somebody wanted to build on it and do that, it would cost them a lot of money to do it, and it's probably not, it doesn't make financial sense, and so that's okay. What do we intend to do with it? We intend to turn it into multi-purpose athletic fields. We're blessed that the schools have decided to build 2 new schools in the city, including closing Greentown and bringing all those jobs to the city. We're appreciative of our partnership with them. And as a result of their development, some of the community's multi-purpose athletic fields have gone by the way. And we believe that this is a great location to put them. So, as you know, that was largely bike trail or motorbikes riding back there, dirt. There were some trees on the back, the southern portion of it. But we felt that we could work out the arrangements with Meyer, and so we were able to negotiate some concession that they will finish this off, get it in grade level with the appropriate amount of dirt and plant grass, and that'll be done this year. And then next year, we intend to be able to work through the city council and the mayor to develop a parking lot on that site at the end of Stratavan and be able to open up community athletic fields next year. Okay, so that is a parcel that we paid $150,000 for that we decided to keep for park purposes. Okay, so Meyer. You can see the 2 orange-ish colors, blocks there. The large one is where the Meyer store will be. And the Meyer footprint is not the entire square. The Meyer store is not that entire square. Okay. But you remember what the Kmart building looked like, and that was 90,000 square feet. This building's 180,000 square feet, so it's 2 Kmarts located up there. And remember that I think about 20 to 5%, as I recall talking with the Meyer folks, is what they represent as their grocery business. And the other 75% are, you know, is hardware, goods, clothing, things like that. They will, in the top part of the Meyer site along Stratavan Drive, they will have their grocery pickup for those that call in and order online. And in the bottom right corner of that large square will be where their pharmacy is located, and then they'll have their outdoor lawn and garden and the like. You see where the fuel station is going to be. So the Meyer parcel was what they acquired out of the 24 acres that we were holding out for commercial development. They acquired 17 of it at a price of $3.451 million. Let's go to the right then, to the light blue. And the first thing you'll see between the light blue and the orange is a dark line that says private drive. So there's going to be access from Stratavan all the way down to Apple Grove to be able to get through this parcel if you're going to any of these businesses. You'll note that in the blue, there are not any curb cuts going out onto Main Street. You will exit into the private drive and then exit at Stratavan or at Burger King, or on Apple Grove. So we're proud to say that Chris Maggiore of MAGG North Canton is the proud owner of Burger King. We sold him that. And Bojangles, is he intending to bring the second location in Stark County to North Canton. You can see the first one going up down there in Belden by Bob Evans. On the corner of Stratavan and Main, you'll see a new national coffee chain, 7 Brew. And if you haven't checked out their website, you really should. It's most impressive. Very excited about it. And hopefully we're able to, Chris is able to get that footprint solidified there, but they seem very interested in it. They've been down to take a look at it. We think that that's a winner. The nearest 7 Brew is in Indianapolis. So we'll be the first. It's good to be first. People that usually finish first are called winners. So we sold that arrangement of blue for $2.5 million, 3.59 acres. Finally, Sergeant Clean Car Wash 3.21 acres for $1.34 million. And you'll note the Sergeant Clean Car Wash, the pink there right next to Meyer. But I want to digress for a minute to say that when we were looking, you remember in our 10 criteria when we were talking about how if there's any remaining land, if any, and is it desirable, who wants it? And I was at that point where, look, I feel that we've done all that we really want to do as a city with this project. There's only a little square left. I don't think I have the resources to continue to try to market it. Let's see if someone else can bring some lift to it. And so Brian Cruz of Sergeant Clean Car Wash said, hey, I'll take up that challenge. And we sold that last 1.2-ish acres to him. And then as good fortune would have it, and as blessed as we are as a community to have some Stark County traditions, we're able to say that Sergeant Clean spoke with someone else to locate their business here, and that gentleman is here with us tonight, Steve DePietro, and we are going to have the Papa Bear's restaurant in North Canton. Yep. So this is brand new. You knew there was one over in Belden, but it is no more. And as you know, there's the folks over in Jackson, as nice as they are, sometimes it's a little difficult to deal with entities that don't have control of their levers. And over there in Jackson, they deal with the county for various governmental functions, and there were some difficulties that ensued. So that's our opportunity. That's the good team that we put together to say, hey, look, there's an opportunity here. Let's make some connections and see if we can make this happen. It happened. So you'll also note, although it's not in a color that we had, but this talks about what Councilman Revolt would say when he was at the Department of Development about leveraged opportunities. And we have some leveraged opportunities here. And that is that the Cutler property has been sold to Wendy's. So we're getting our Wendy's back in North Canton on Main Street, where it has been was an institution for a long time. How do we say that's a leveraged opportunity? Well, we know that the real estate marketplace has changed so much, and Cutler has indicated that, hey, having all these different district branches and stuff, this is just too much real estate. We need to consolidate down into one location, and they chose that location. It was not this place. And so that land was going to become available, and it's next to a Meijer store. And there was a lot of interest in this property, and they were able to, and Wendy's was very interested. We know that Wendy's has approached us on numerous occasions to get back on Main Street someplace up there. And so we were able to direct them through NAI Spring, who ran point on that to get that deal, and they made that happen. All of this construction looks to be like it's going to happen simultaneously. I want you to think about this, the size footprint that is. That's like building a whole new town center, all happening right at the same time. And we shouldn't, discount what's happening on the other side of Apple Grove. We know that property was purchased next to Walther's that is acquired by Conrad's. They had one time thought that they would open up a car wash, but the traffic impacts that said that they couldn't do it. They held on to it. We referred a bunch of folks to them to try to buy their land. They were interested in selling. But once they found out that Meijer was coming, they decided to keep the property and put a Conrad's Tire Center on that spot. So that's another development with more capital investment and more jobs into that area. So when you add up all the sales prices there, the gross property sale revenue was $7.291520, $7.29 million. And for those two parcels that constituted that $7.2 million, we acquired it for $3.85. Now I don't know what kind of fuzzy math you have to use to figure out that that's a profit. That's a huge problem. But it needed to be, because there are expenses. There's cost of ownership. There's acquisition costs, there's ownership costs, there's disposition costs. And we know that that needs to be accounted for. Now, most of you, and people that you talk to, about the only real estate they dabble in is their house. They buy a house, they sell a house. They buy another house, they sell another house. And they understand that on a very limited basis, and we'll call it a primitive way. When you talk to somebody about it, hey, I saw you had your house up for sale. Yeah, I sold my house for $500,000. Yeah, what'd you pay for it? Well, I paid $300 for it. That's the extent of our real estate experience for most people. Come on in.
Sorry to interrupt.
Nope,
Yes,
you're good.
I'm excited too. Not as excited as Mr. DeOrio.
Well, we welcome you to the party.
Oh, let the record reflect that David Matheny has joined us. It is 5:40 p.m. Sorry to interrupt.
No. So most of us know that our real estate experience is limited to buying and selling of our house. And it's a very simple equation. This is what we bought it for, this is what we sold it for, and we think of it, that's our profit. And for an investment, not to get into all the tax discussions and everything about it, we kind of tend to forget that we put a water heater in, that we had to upgrade the air conditioner, stuff like that. I get that, I understand that. And that's what we wanted to make sure that we reflected here, that there are expenses associated with this. And so we've kept track of them. And the next slide is going to break that down and show you what they are. So the back of the napkin map, I sold my house map, would say that, wow, you sold it for almost 7.3 million, you bought it for 3.8 million, you made like 3.5 million. No, that was the gross margin that we had, but now we have to deduct the expenses out of that margin to truly find out what we really made. And before I show you that, I have my little teaser slide. Remember the 10 things from the beginning? So we've gone down and we've analyzed this deal and all that it has come to represent, and we wanted to know how many of the boxes could we check on this, and we're able to check all 10 of these boxes. There was no income tax abatement given and no property tax abatement given on these deals. So here it is. Oh my God. Everybody sit down. So excited. All right. Now, the language that we're using here is we have all throughout this process, because we have been talking to the Department of Development and Jobs Ohio, Team Neo, or whatever they call themselves these days. We get all that. We understand their lingo. So they look at things and they consider it in this format. There's usage of funds and there's sources of funds. Because at some point we were talking to Jobs Ohio Department of Development on assistance on various pieces as we worked on this for the last 3 years. And these are the kinds of slides that they're interested in seeing. So this is the format that we did. So the red represents expenditures, a usage of funds. And we put red as, ooh, that's bad, that's red. You're in the red, right? We hear that all the time. And then we used sources of funds as green. Green is good, we're in the green. We like green, green's my favorite color. Okay, usage of funds. Well, there was the purchase price of Kmart. And again, remember, this is the wooded acreage that was owned by the bankrupt Kmart. It's not the Kmart building, $450,000. The purchase price of Seritage, $3.4 million. That's where the Kmart building was. Now, we did not have the money for this when we started this project. The city had to borrow to get it. You remember that I told you about those interest rates that made this compelling? And the whole thing to understand here is you put this together. A great team, experts, community interest, what we're borrowing at, what properties are available, it's all an equation. And in this instance, they all work well together to make this possible. So the interest rates were from 1.125% to 2.625%. And I know there's bankers in the audience and they know that those are great rates. But what does it translate into dollar-wise? Well, it was $347,632.09. We also paid utilities. We had to keep the heat in the building. We put lights there. Of course, you know the farmer's market was there, but we also had to have a security fire alarm system that we paid for in case the building caught on fire in the middle of the night. So those utility expenses, you see the number there, $68,265. And then there were property taxes. And we worked with our school partners. We could have gone down and said, property taxes are pretty significant here. Could we recharacterize this as a nonprofit building and grounds and do away with the property taxes? That would have helped our bottom line, but it wouldn't have helped the school. The school is our partner. So we paid $388,000 plus in property taxes. And then there's closing costs. It cost us money to go through the process of buying the real estate. There's also closing costs to sell the real estate. So we put them in. The Meyer closing costs, $369,485. Remember the blue parcels for Chris Majori? Those closing costs were $170,976. The Sergeant Clean closing costs, $15,109. So you get an idea of the closing costs. The next two that we're going to talk about, though, are related to each other, and it's something that's unique to this property. The city was the developer. The city was the developer. We didn't give this property to somebody else to develop it. We worked that deal with Meyer, that the city was going to be the developer of the rest of the land. So as the developer, in any other type of arrangement like this, if you look at anywhere the other Meyers are built or where Costco's being built and all this kind of stuff, the developer shares in the development cost. The developer shares in the development cost. In fact, everybody that's on the site that is going to have their business there generally shares in the development cost. It's called a shared site development agreement. And through the process of our negotiations with Meyer, we felt that, hey, we needed to put a cap on that number. We're not DHOF. We don't have unlimited pockets. We're not a developer that has unlimited resources. So we needed to put a cap, and we made that cap, we negotiated that cap to be $800,000. Now we knew there's going to have to be sanitary sewer put in. We knew there's going to be a road, there's going to be curb and gutter, there's going to have to be a retention basin to deal with all the water. There's a whole bunch of things to develop this site. And we know it was going to be quite extensive. There was environmental remediation, there was the wetland mitigation, there was all kinds of things that could have run the cost up to an extraordinary number. But we limited our exposure to $800,000. So I broke that $800,000 down into two numbers. The first number you see says $436,341. What is that? Well, kind of put up there in parentheses, you can kind of get the idea. Demolition, retention basin property acquisition, wetland mitigation. These are the kinds of things that have occurred that we've already paid for out of our $800,000. $436,341. If you do the math, take 800 and subtract that number out, that leaves you the next number, $363,659. That's how much left we have to commit under this agreement to fulfill the $800,000 threshold that we negotiated. Now, that money is not money that we have to come up with, in the sense that we go to the finance director and the council and say, tap some funds that we have sitting around, if we have any. This was deducted out of the proceeds of the Meyer sale. So, you know, we sold it for 17.2 acres, 3.4 something million. What's it say there? 3.451 million. So they've retained, they've kept the $363,659 in an escrow account that they will bill against as they develop this property. And once they use that up, once the 800, that 363 is done, it constitutes the 800, we're done, regardless of how much more there is to go. The rest is on Meyer. and there's a lot to go. Okay, so you kind of get the idea with the shared site development agreement. And then finally, under the last cost, there were professional services, no surprise. There were legal fees, there were surveying fees, there were appraisers, there were engineers, there was zoning, environmental analysis, etc. These are the types of professional services that were engaged at every stage of this project: acquisition, ownership, disposition. We add all those together, $383,000 plus. What's the grand total of the usage of funds? $6,393,000 and some odd. $6,393,000. Okay, great, we got through that. Let's do the sources of funds. So remember I said we had Burger King, we had it on a lease? They paid us this amount of money between May of 2020 when we got it and to April of 2023 when we sold it to Chris Majority. $90,381 and change. Then there was the sale of the land to Meyer for $3.451 million. Then there was the sale to Majority for $2.5 million. And then there was the sale to Sergeant Clean for $1.34 million. But wait, there's more. There was a shared development demolition credit that we got from Sergeant Clean, $80,000. I could have chosen to put that in the amount sale to Sergeant Clean, showed it as $1.42 million, but in full transparency, I wanted to show that no, the 1.34 is what they paid for the acreage. The 80,000 was towards demolition of the Kmart building. We also received a demolition grant that Rob Graham was able to secure for us through the state of Ohio, because the state of Ohio was incentivizing tear downs of buildings. And we applied for it, and we were one of just 3 entities in Stark County that received it. $215,000. And then there was a reimbursement of Burger King property taxes that we paid, $31,000 and change. The total revenue, $7.7 million and change. Subtracting out the costs leaves us a total net profit approximately $1.31 million. So yes, would I have loved to have gotten the $3.5 million difference between the gross sale and the net and what we paid for it? Sure, but that isn't real. There were costs associated with this, so we're itemizing that stuff. So anyway, $1.3 million, it's a great day. Many said that it couldn't get done. Oh, we won't be able to figure it out. We don't have the expertise. We are going to lose our butts because everything is working against North Canton. No, it isn't. This is a great community to live in. And as we find with this deal, there's additional long-term benefits. These can't be discounted. This is the reason that we're doing this. Payroll income tax. You saw the screen of all the people, all the businesses are going to be locating here. And as we talked with them as to how many jobs they would be, what they thought their payroll would be, and then we were able to say, let's just say that remains a static number. We'll estimate conservatively on this, we'll discount it a bit, and then keep it flat for the whole 10-year period. And we know that's not going to be real. We know these businesses are going to grow, and their job numbers should move up. But we think over a 10-year period, we think that's going to be $2.4 million. Now the big elephant in the room is going to be Meyer out of that, right? But we're figuring about 500 jobs in total for everybody is what we were estimating. And we believe 300 of those jobs come from Meyer. The estimated net corporate profit tax. Well, in North Canton, we not only have an income tax on individuals, and by the way, to that comment that you made earlier, only about 28% of the people that live in this community pay income tax. So, the estimated net corporate profit tax is the 1.5% tax on the net profits, and we are very conservatively estimating that at $203,000 over that 10-year period. We are establishing a whole bunch of new water customers, including a car wash that will be an outsized user. And we estimate the water revenue over a 10-year period there to be $360,000. And why are we using 10 years, by the way? Because when you do this at the Ohio Department of Development, Jobs Ohio, this is the kind of pro forma that they put together. They want to see what's my ROI over a 10-year period. So we put these things in. And then there's property taxes. And so we were able to take all of these locations, we were able to go to other We were able to go to our own county auditor's website. We were able to go to other county auditors' websites to get valuations, actual valuations of stores already open. Compute, if they were given those valuations here in Stark County, how much property tax revenue would be resulting. And over that 10-year period, that's $2.5 million. So $250,000 a year, and the school gets 71% of that. 71% of $250,000 is roughly $175,000 every year, forever. That's a great thing for the school. That pays for a lot of teachers. We like that. Infrastructure improvements. Well, look, we know that that place up there had a terrible road. It wasn't even really good. It was, you know, can't say anything positive about it. And there was no curb and gutter, and it flooded all the time. It was a mess. So out of this, we're going to get a new storm water drainage system, curb and gutter. There'll be stormwater stuff through the parking lot of Meyer and the others, manage all this water. And also a new sanitary sewer system. And surprisingly, you may not be aware, but at the end of Stratavon, there's a house, and then there were a couple businesses, but those businesses and that house are on septic. In fact, one of the businesses, it just has a porta potty. So when you think about North Canton, you think, oh, everybody has running toilet. No, they don't. So we're getting a new sanitary sewer line that goes all the way down to the end of Stratavon. Why is that important? Because do you see the slide with the community athletic field? And then, oh, by the way, on the north side of Stratavon, we've got Kathleen Park. We're going to need restrooms. Well, what better way to get it and have it paid for by somebody else on the other side of the equation? Road, curb, gutter, sidewalks, all the way down. Both sides. Traffic. We recognize that we are going to have traffic issues here and that we are working to mitigate them. And we believe that we have a great traffic plan, and our engineer's been on top of this from the beginning. But I welcome those traffic challenges. Those are the kind of problems that I like to have, because that means that there's money being made by businesses in North Canton, and that people are enjoying being able to go there. So yes, there's going to be a traffic light at Stratavon in Maine. That's part of these costs. We knew at one point, we had some estimates done on what that would cost us if the city were going to put it in. And so we knew that in our negotiations, how we were handling that. And you can see that those infrastructure costs, or the value of those, is about $1.635 million. And then the regional retention basin that will serve every entity that's on the former Kmart Seritage parcels, plus the community soccer field, plus everything on the north side of Stratavon. So about $450,000 if we were to do that ourselves. So the grand total, the total estimated additional value is $7.5 million. If you add that to the net profit cash, $1.3 million, you end up with a total estimated economic benefit over a 10-year period, granted, of $8.8 million. That's why we did it. This was the reason, and it's what drives us on every other deal that we're working on past this one. This one's done now. These bans will be paid off, and we're moving on to the next arrangement. Next slide. So our conclusion. A milestone accomplishment for this city and the community. First of its kind initiative. Never been done before. Darryl captured it so well. This has resulted in outstanding financial, economic, and community success. More specifically, the city land banking program that many have poo-pooed has turned out to be a huge success. It has enabled direct involvement in the development process. We control it, ensuring timely progress in pursuit of development opportunities that would offer the greatest benefits to the local economy and community. Aren't there some other developers in our town that I would like to have them learn this message? An initiative provided opportunities to establish and strengthen positive, progress-driven relationships between the city and the key community groups to ensure beneficial development for all. This initiative secured economic development for abandoned and vacant commercial land, restoring and maximizing the value of space to the community's benefit. The city navigated a complex development opportunity that involves significant legal, environmental, and economic challenges to a conclusion of over $1.3 million in net profit and over $7.5 million in estimated additional value over the next 10 years, and multiple quality commercial additions to enhance our local economy. Finally, this showcases the value of determination and cooperation against adversity and negativity. Thank you.
Mr. President, if you might, council may have some questions or comments for the Director of Administration. Let me turn to my left, Mr. Orr.
No, you spelled it out. Very good.
Thank you for your support.
Mr. Matheny.
Takes a team to make these kind of accomplishments, and thank you for leading that team.
Thank you for letting me lead the team.
Mr. McLeister.
Well, I guess, as a councilman for Ward 1 that this is in, I have to give you the biggest thanks. But, no, fantastic job, fantastic team effort, and looking forward to seeing some shovels going into the ground. Well, not that they already are not, so thank you.
Yes, construction is underway. The general time frame that we're looking at is they're, as you know, moving a lot of dirt up there, getting things situated. They've got to eventually get it to grade level. We expect that probably sometime around September timeframe, the shell of the building will be up, and then they'll be working on the interior finishes as we get into 2024. They expect to have their grand opening in May of next year. Now, that's for Meyer. But as Meyer's a much bigger store to build, and as the other parcels are brought to grade ready, you'll have to talk with those individuals as to how their timetable is. But from what I understand, everybody's objective is to be up and open this year.
You know, Mayor, you get credit for this. Richly deserved credit, I might add.
Well, it's been a journey since we started in 2020 on this, and many of the players are right here in this room. Council's had our support throughout the time, questioning, challenging, making sure we're trying to do the right things as we go forward. This whole project is for the greater good of our community, and I think you've seen a number of words here on that last page about opportunities, but it also, I think, brings about convenience for our residents and for our visitors, that we have these businesses here. And I'm really thrilled that we have a signature family business here with Papa Bear's, finding a home here in North Canton, and bringing a wonderful restaurant and to our city and for our residents. And with Meyer coming in and Sergeant Clean, it took time to get the players to line up, but this is just the beginning. Okay, we're not done. This is just the beginning, because it's been a journey. And if you could just picture in your mind where we were in 2020 and where we are today, I can't thank our legal team, probably the best real estate legal team in the county, helping us along the way. So, like I say, this is just the beginning. And you don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. I think that's the expression. And I think we know where we've been, but for us to be sustainable, not only now, for in the future, I think we had to look at, where are we now and where do we want to go? So I think we know where we're at right now, but we still want to go a little farther here and do the best we can, and bringing, again, economic opportunities to our community, convenience for shopping, benefiting our schools and our higher education community, and it's been a challenge, but you know what? We just stuck to our guns, and we weren't going to let the pandemic, hold us back. And I can't thank the council enough for their support. And again, working with our legal team and our partners here in this room right here. Sean has been, Sanford has been a great asset for us with his background in helping us navigate some of these things and bringing businesses into the city. It's about economic opportunity, again, and convenience for our residents and for our visitors who are going to shop here. And I'm just very thankful for where we're at this stage, but the best is yet to come, and that's the way I feel right now. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Mayor, you're leading us into the second century, and we are indeed grateful. You know, just to play upon Matt, I guess as council president, you, before I get the last word.
Thank you for the presentation. I mean, it's a big win for the city of North Canton. It's a big win for land banking, for the schools, for our income tax. I can't get the Pointer Sisters song out of my mind since you brought that up, but it's very exciting. It's amazing, and our community is gonna revel in this for years. It's great.
And if I just might add then, before Daryl wraps it up, is that we have come to this point, and those like Catherine and myself that have been here 6 years, we know what the lay of the land was when we got here. And there was a lot that needed to be done, and we did it, and we fixed it. And that put us in this position then at some point to be able to do that. And we've developed a talent pool like none other. And I say that this is the greatest team that this city has ever assembled, with Catherine as the deputy director, Gina as the finance director, Jim as the deputy finance director, Ben as our clerk of council, but more importantly as our public policy analyst and IT person, and then Danielle and Ginny and Jennifer and Tracy and Kelly. All of these folks are high caliber, high output, high energy people, and that makes it possible that we didn't have to go out and hire an economic development director. We were able to put together a team that was able to maneuver that because the city was being well run. So thank you.
We do have Christine Wyrick available by voice. Christine, do you have any comment or question for Patrick?
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you and congratulations. I'm so proud of the work you've all done. And I remember hearing when I first came on board with the city, you control the land, you control the project, and God, this is proof of that. So just strong work, guys.
Well, thank you. I don't want to be too redundant. I think we're just all astonished by the scope of the numbers. It's just breathtaking. But just to reiterate what Patrick said is that this project came because of an incredible degree of focus, discipline, flexibility, and teamwork. I can tell you in 40 years that I've never been with a group that was able to check its ego and get something like this done. That is no small accomplishment. Dave Johnson, former mayor, is nodding his head yes. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you think that we started this project with a former council. We had 4 new members of council join us, and any one of them could have sunk this. It's astonishing. But I think all of us embraced this one team approach, and this demonstrates when we have public service out there and we're doing the best we can and we're using very smart people to help us, it really suggests what we can accomplish. So, to my fellow members of council, I want to say thank you for your support of the administration and its efforts to pull this off. Sean Sanford, I want to say thank you. I want again to acknowledge you on behalf of the council for your role that you've played. We truly appreciate this. Terry Moore and Wayne Boyer, you know, when we talk about the challenges, I don't think people realize how many white knuckle moments we had. But you successfully guided us through that and assisted with the negotiations and other issues. And it's terrific. We've acknowledged the City Hall team, the mayor, Patrick, Gina, Rob, the team before me. Couldn't have done it without you. Gina, we particularly appreciate your attention to the numbers, because she was there to remind us that where we needed to be financially. Jim, thank you too. There's one more thing though. This is about capital investment in a community. This is about people investing millions of dollars in us. And I think we owe a note of thanks to Meyer, to our good friend Steve DiPietro, Chris Majori, Brian Cruz. They had confidence. At the end of the day, they could come in and invest millions of dollars in a business opportunity. That's terrific. What I'd like to do is, if I can, I'm going to make a motion that we amend our agenda for item 3B, correct?
Yes, I mean,
Let's make it 3A is the presentation. 3B is a resolution that I would like to look at. Can you pull that up for me on the screen? And I'm going to ask council to take a quick read on this. And this is an acknowledgement of thanks for an investment. I think too often companies come through and, you know, as Matt says, buy local, but hey, this particular situation rises to a different level. And so what I'd like to do is, if there aren't any objections, I'll make a motion. Well, first of all, I guess I'm moving that we add this to the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Any questions or comments about this?
You want to read it?
We
Would
can.
Would you read it, Darryl? I can't see that.
Well,
I've been squinting. And I
I've
still
got my
can't see.
glasses off, so I'm going to turn it over to the guy who reads everything.
fair enough.
Fair enough.
A resolution thanking those companies, individuals, and firms who have chosen to make significant investments in the city of North Canton for their dedication of time and resources to the betterment of the community. Whereas the city of North Canton and its associated school district are dependent on continued economic growth and development in order to maintain revenue streams and provide services to the community. And whereas the city of North Canton's land banking efforts have recently completed the first major project, which will bring more than $30 million in capital investment to the community and more than $15 million in estimated additional payroll. And whereas such economic success and continued growth of the community would not be possible without significant investment from private firms and individuals. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of North Canton, County of Stark, and State of Ohio, that this council does hereby express its deepest thanks and gratitude to the following firms and individuals who have chosen to make significant investments in the City of North Canton's future. A. Meyer Incorporated. B. Christopher Majori of MAGG North Canton. C. Brian Cruz of Always Stay Unlimited LLC, doing business as Sergeant Clean Car Wash. And D. Steve DiPietro of Papa Bear's Restaurant. And the rest is standard pro forma. I'll read it if you want.
You don't need to. Let me just say one thing before I ask. You know, I've been around long enough to have faced Hoover's departure. I remember when we had, on my second tour of council, when we had to figure out how we were going to make ends meet. And we were going to have to cut staff, reduce expenses, and we had no clear way forward. I would much rather celebrate this than that, than mark that, and have to do it. This is really pretty terrific. So, that's the resolution. I'll make a motion.
Director Von Boyer just texted me, I apologize, we spelled Brian Cruz's last name wrong.
Okay, we will
There
get
should
that.
not be an E in his last
We
name.
will get that corrected, sir. But what I'd like to do is have the corrected version placed on the agenda for next Monday night. I'll make that motion, and we will adopt it at that time. So
Troy,
it's the motion.
seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
the administration.
All right. Excellent. Moving on to.
Before you do that, you want to take a short?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's take a short break.
Yeah.
We can get up and move like, you know, like talk a
Yeah,
lot.
let's take a short 5-minute break.
Oh, okay. I'm not worried about anyone who's doing my bag. And if they do, I'm no. My feet are but
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on moving Papa Bear to
Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson.
Right here.
I remember how many times we talked about land banks and doing this location. Spearheader, I'm proud of it, yeah. Well, quality, yeah, no problem. Like I said, you will earn the property. And that's all for it.
And we bought the property.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you bought, sorry.
Yeah, when you just
When you get the opening, I want to know that.
Oh, well, I don't know. Oh, a lot of negative.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's weird.
No guarantee.
I might be biased, but I would take
Well, you are.
Thanks for coming. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Got your new location. This is Papa Bear. You sell the property and trust it.
Right.
You're totally out. You're going totally moving to a new site. It's gotta be difficult. You haven't operated.
You know, it's one of those things where you want to
Great job, John. Why did you say your name wrong?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We'll pick that up.
And then obviously it's gonna, you have to hire some people for the obviously, you'll transfer some people, move them around. You didn't want to give away the public area. You didn't feel your dressing was the best location.
Not bad.
Just a better way
Asking questions.
So the economic business model is better. Great.
Monday morning. I have, but I mean,
So, are you up over there in Scotland?
You know,
Yes, sir. For the city, I will. Yes, sir. They have, yes, sir. That would be good. They say more concentration of those kind of things together than what is great. They're competing with each other. They are competing with a bigger pie now.
That's what I'm saying.
Same in the grocery company.
Well, obviously.
So one time,
Well, I mean, there was, Ed Dehoff that said, really?
I had it.
So I think that they started, they were the first ones, they did.
So,
They got it.
Oh, wow.
We weren't really competing on price, we were definitely price off. But Dehoff's team, they only went 30 days. Sabotage. So we had said that this was 45, so they went with 50 days. So then as 30 days was winding down, we provided notice to Sabotage. We're not going to do public. Sabotage. I don't think it was the financing, I think it was the
and then
was about what the land true employee.
Yeah.
And I think well, we investigated it first, right? We wanted to look into it and figure out what can we do to mitigate it. So by working with the title company that located on this transaction, we were able to do what they call insurance. So that meant that if the legal proceeding went against the insurance from the title company would put us back in the pole position.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Very good. You look forward to it.
We do, yeah, we had that
That's the
conversation.
insurance would have
Competition at this point.
we reimburse the city for all of its money. And we wouldn't have the land, we wouldn't have the deal, but we'd have a little different bond.
Now, the bonds are due in May?
Yes.
And you're gonna pay those back. You do have other bonds for other projects.
We have other projects that we're.
Those are separate expenses, correct? I'm not ready to make an announcement.
Not yet.
Okay, so within the next
They're talking like May 2024, within the next 15 months, we'll have a lot of this built up and y'all.
Well, I think this is, the longest project, this is 12 months from now, from May of next year. But these guys think that they're going to be open by this fall, by the end of this year.
Now, the mining, environmental, how much do you see at the to mitigate environmental?
Our total development cost, Robert, on everything is $800,000. That's the limit. I negotiated that.
And then the buyers took up everything.
Everything about that.
They're willing to take the risk.
What were some of those things? $250,000 for wetland mitigation.
Is there anything on that? I guess the question is there anything on that property left there by the prior user that's going to endanger anyone's health?
All mitigated.
All mitigated to commercial standards.
It's going to be sealed with a lot of promotion that prevents any of that kind of stuff from coming. So you know that the environmental was like $1 million remediation. The Stratavon road, $1.5 million. Traffic lights, $300,000. All that's not on our dime.
They're going to make us make agreements. Okay, great.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Call me. I'll call you soon. All right.
I know.
Yeah.
So what about, was everything about Patrick Worrell's presentation accurate?
Yes.
What was
I
inaccurate?
have two documents. One of them is
Why'd you send that? 750?
I didn't get the straight, but they found on this side.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else that was inaccurate?
how much can I go through here? Sitting there for a presentation.
No, I'm not saying top of your head. Yeah,
How many things supposed to, that's
just let me know about anything else you come across.
Maybe they're not getting taken on the day, except maybe they're doing pictures. Maybe it's actually
sales agreements, sales in parcels, and you deny some.
Walking away brown.
I'll just wait for you.
I think they're supposed to be public now.
Continue the meeting here. I do want to say, I want to reflect that Member Warren had a previously scheduled commitment, and so she had to leave. So this is her chair, but since she's here, I'll take over. And okay, so this is the ordinance to amend a higher amount of bonds for the previously discussed bans. Gina, I'll let you take that over.
Sure. So we originally requested an amount of $3.3 million for additional new projects, and we would like to request an increase of $1 million for new project money to $4.3 million. That would be for the 15-year economic development bonds.
Any discussion on this? Anybody have any questions, comments?
I think the record might want to reflect that this is in anticipation of a potential project. Economic development project.
Any other comments, questions? I'm gonna make a motion that we move this on the agenda.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And moving on to 4B. This is the current expenses. Gina, you have an amendment for this as well, potentially.
I do, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, we're asking for, in relation to the additional increase, in the principal of the economic development bonds, we'd like to increase the appropriations in order to spend those once we receive the monies. So that's the major part of this request for the $1 million, and then the associated debt costs with that. Also, we did receive, or will receive, a third round of opioid settlement funds of $3,100, so we would like to add an appropriation amendment for that. Again, we use that money for the SROs in the schools. The capital improvement fund, we're requesting an additional $10,000. The price estimate of the 2 police cruisers was higher than what we initially budgeted, so we need an increase of $10,000 for that money. And then the amendment, I would like to add $13,000 to the fire levy fund and $20,000 to the EMS levy fund, and that is simply to cover the cost of the Stark County Treasurer's Office fees for collecting real estate taxes. Was higher again than what we budgeted.
Any discussion, comments? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to amend it to include the $13,000 and the $20,000 fees first.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and then I'm gonna make a motion that we move this to the council agenda.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then, okay, so Gina, this is your show tonight. 4C, this is the gas line easements. Yeah, go ahead. Whatever you want to say about that one for Dominion.
I think this will actually be me.
Yep.
Oh, this is you?
Okay.
Okay.
So this came to, Dominion Gas reached out to us. They're doing a gas main replacement along Marquardt this summer. They installed several years ago part of their gas main under our property, which is sort of the back end of the Hoover Park. Never asked us for an easement, so they are now asking us for an easement to go in and replace that gas main.
Okay. Are there any legal issues to that? Like that seems concerning to me. I mean,
well, as it has been explained to me by the engineer's office, the gas main is supposed to be under the essentially under the sidewalk, but there are EPA rules that I'm not deeply familiar with, that you have to have certain lateral clearance distances between underground lines, and so they had to move the gas line over 5 feet, which put it just across the right-of-way line.
okay.
So there was always intended to be a gas main there. It just ended up 5 feet to the right of where it was originally supposed to be.
And does this affect anything else other than Hoover Park? Any residents or anything affected by this?
I mean, the project this summer will.
No, I mean
affect
just that on that specific easement part.
This only affects our.
All right, that's good. That's good. Clarification. Okay. Any further comments, discussion on this?
So we're just gonna have to put what's the city's obligation to this, for just giving them permission?
Grant them
Yeah.
access to it. Yeah.
Just granted the
And
easement.
since it's not gonna cost us anything,
No.
nothing of that nature.
No.
We are not
Okay.
receiving or spending any funds.
It's just making the placement legal.
Okay.
There's a motion.
I will make a motion to move this to the agenda.
Revolt will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And moving on, we are going to go to ordinance and rules. John?
Okay, this is with the rental registration. We wanna change something here. Currently, our program allows up to 3 inspections with
30 days in between each inspection. The proposed is to reduce the number of inspections to 2, but increase the time between the 2 inspections to 60 days. In addition, after receiving a license, the landlord may request a 3rd inspection after correcting any issues reported on the final license, and the license may be upgraded accordingly. The effect would only be less opportunities to correct the issues, but more time in which to do it. So we're not changing anything else in this, just this right here.
Okay.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I make a motion that we put this on this council.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to utilities and rubbish. Jamie?
All right. Well, it's been a long day, so I'm gonna be a little more reliant upon notes than I normally am. So looking at item 6A, this takes a look at the city's water tap-in regulations, and so the belief is that maybe if we can change these, it might make it a little more attractive for people to connect into our water system. So some of the major changes that this is looking to do is we're going to transition to a flat frontage fee of $2,000 regardless of the frontage length, which would eliminate, or which would be, be similar to both Canton and Aqua, Ohio, which currently have flat frontage fees. Transition to meter fees, or transition meter fees to be the actual price of the meter instead of a rate set by council. This will remove the need for future price adjustments by council and will ensure that no customer is being overcharged or underpaying. We're going to standardize the tap-in fees based on the size of the tap only. Another thing we're going to look at is for taps smaller than 2 inches. The city will install everything from the tap to the curb stop valve. So basically we're going to be putting in what we will own. A note that I had in here is that this was previously done by the city in the past, and it's done by the city's competitors. However, this was eliminated by a past council in an effort to use tap-in fees to cover all of the labor costs. So, and we're going to eliminate the difference in connection costs, looking at inside versus outside city properties. So properties outside the city's boundaries are already paying twice the amount of normal rate for water and a higher connection fee. So this served to discourage people. So again, going back to what I said before, hopefully these changes will get more people to sign up, have more customers. Lastly, I have here is we're going to eliminate the requirement that new customers that are outside the city agree to be annexed. I think this has soured some relationships in the past, so hopefully eliminating that will be some goodwill. Mr. DeOrio, am I missing anything?
No, I think you covered quite a number of the changes there, and I guess trying on a very micro level, which is good. From a macro standpoint, being out there and as we're looking at this and as we're trying to foster relationships with some of our surrounding communities, we have to keep in mind that we are we run a water business. It's a business. And whether you want to stay in the business or not depends on the decisions that you're going to make. And I can tell you that in the years that I've been around here, there's been a lot of decisions made that have put our competitiveness at jeopardy. And it's very critical for people to understand and accept that if you're not growing your customer base and you're just sitting still, you're making yourself a target for the others who are in the water business to take your customers. And once we start down that path, that we start losing customers to our competitors, we're having to take these same costs, some of them sunk to build all the infrastructure that we had, but then our operating costs, and we're passing them on or dividing it up between a smaller and smaller user base. The smaller the user base decreases, their share of the costs have to go up. And you could find yourself in short order in some kind of a death spiral. So We either are in the water business or we're not. All right? So I think that we all agree that the residents who live inside the city enjoy a special benefit for being inside the city and getting their water at a lesser rate than what is paid outside. So we wish to grow our user base outside the city. It's largely developed inside the city, but with what we discussed earlier today, we're bringing on new water customers. That helps. The more we bring on, the more users there are, it spreads the cost out amongst all the users, and that means that their share is less. It's critical that we do these various things. You know, I've talked with our water department, and you know, they don't understand for the life of them why this was changed in the past by a previous council. And it basically said, we as the city aren't going to do anything to install a water line for you. Zero. And you just have to do it all. From tapping the main, running under the road, whatever you're building there, we just accept it as it is. Hopefully they've been inspected. Not so sure in the past. This brings some uniformity to that. If we're going to own it, okay, we're comfortable with putting that tap in, and we'll run it to a curb box and make sure everything's properly installed. And we'll know where it is, and we'll map it underground to know where it is, and that type of thing. So all these things are very important that we think to make us more competitive as we look at as we've analyzed what APA and what the City of Canton are doing.
Where do you see current capacity for our water?
Well, we have opportunities to the west in Jackson and to the northwest, and then we're starting to see new development in the northeast, just outside the city, and as we move up towards north of St. James and St. Ives. There are opportunities that people are approaching us, but we are up against our competitors, wherever each one of them may be located, that says they can bring the water too.
What about the capacity of the water treatment facility?
Pardon me?
The capacity of the water treatment facility?
Yeah, we run at about like a third or 40% of our capacity. We have these are part of those sunk costs. We have way too much capacity for what we serve now. Somewhere along the way, from 1970 to the present, decisions were made to increase the capacity of this thing because we were going to go we wanted to sell all this water and get all these customers. But then the rest of that equation never came into place. Nobody went out to sell it. We took positions that at times were unreasonable for far reaches. We should be the water purveyor for Costco, but we're not. It's way over there, deep in the heart of Jackson. It's not realistic to think that we were ever going to annex clear to Costco on Frank Road. But by taking this approach, we've put ourselves in a position where, hey, somebody else will do it. Aqua will do it, and that puts things at risk. Years ago, I'm not sure, I can't remember when, but we ran a line, out Apple Grove to where Spectrum is, so that Spectrum could build there. And the thought was, well, we'll run the line out there. We'll be able to sell to other businesses eventually and recoup that cost, and it's going to be a home run. Didn't happen. Nope, because we didn't have a partner, and we didn't do things to facilitate that partnership, and as a result, aqua lines are out there, and that's who's going to provide that water, and those are heavy users that could be paying 2 times the rate. We're missing that, so there are some opportunities that we are pursuing now. We think that we've established a good dialogue with Jackson Township on working together on some things, and we hope to be able to turn that around. Part of it then is at some point somebody is paying for something and they're looking at their balance sheet. Do I go this way? This is how much it's going to cost me, or do I go this way? And we got to be somewhat in the line so that as salespeople we can convince them that it's better to go with us operating under a nonprofit kind of status versus a for-profit corporation.
We were not water friendly. Even just remember a few years ago, if you lived outside the city, somebody had a well that failed, and they said, "Oh, I can tap into the city." We would allow, if you lived in the city, to pay a monthly payment, because it was very costly, those frontage fees, and you could be a corner house with a huge frontage fee. And we said, if you were outside the city, you had to pay it all, right now. I mean, we had people with thousands of dollars, and they said,
Oh,
I
$6,000,
can't
$7,000,
come up with this,
Yeah.
but I
Jeez.
want to tap in. And we changed that, we said, that's ridiculous. Why are we being only inside the city, we can make a monthly payment arrangement, outside the city we can't. So we did change that. This is much more though,
Right.
much more water friendly.
Are we still looking at a pump over at Arrowhead?
Yes.
I got a phone call about that from Sykes's office, about a grant.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we've applied for a grant through the federal government, through Congresswoman Sykes' office. We were informed by Congresswoman Sykes directly to the mayor that that has survived committee. It is making its way into the budget bill. The process from here is a lot like making sausage. You probably don't want to know the gory details. But let's suffice it to say that as this thing moves through the system and makes it into the final budget that is going to be passed by the U.S. Congress and signed by the President, we survive that process, then we would expect to be notified by the appropriate government agency in January that these funds would be available, and then that we would expect them to be delivered to us in March of next year. So that, plus what we're going to be doing this fall with the OPWC and applying for some grants there for this same project. That project, again, is to build a new well on Arrowhead. We've had all the preliminary work done, test well done. The numbers come back on it, they're fantastic. And by incorporating that water into the water that we get from other wells, it brings the things that we measure for into a nice alignment. So, we do have wells that are, as you know, the one on Dressler, they're becoming more commercialized over there, and we still have the Fosnot auto dump over there, and we would like to find a much nicer, secure situation. So the well at Arrowhead is much deeper. We're going down to 300 foot to an aquifer that is untapped, and we're just very pleased with what we see there. So.
Great.
So as you're going down that path with Arrowhead and you're at a third capacity now, is this for anticipated additional demand that we're gonna need that much more capacity?
No, because we still, like I mentioned before, we still have plenty of capacity to do. This is to replace the wells at Dressler.
Okay.
So we would like to be able to close both of those wells down, cap them, shut them down, and then, as you know, we would like to sell the land. And then we would put deed restrictions on there that land could never be used to develop any kind of water resource. We don't certainly want it being sold to someone who then uses it as a competition against us. We're pretty clever, we hope that way. So it's really to shut that down. And when we're all said and done, it won't change the amount of capacity that we have either. So this new well will replace those two wells and we'll still be at the same.
Are there other wells targeted to close?
Not at this time, but I do think it's part of our long-term plan. We have to think about it. When we look at the well field out on East Maple by the ball fields, the water table there is only 5 feet deep.
Jeez.
That's not a deep well.
Thank you for that information.
Okay, so now what does that mean? Well, you're starting to see development, right? You look up on Marquardt and Apple Grove, that acreage was sold there. Homes are going up along Marquardt and Apple Grove, and I think as time goes on, they keep moving that way. You've got a lot of additional vacant land up there. Berkshire Hathaway had land on the other side of Apple Grove next to the Sanctuary Golf Course. Haven't sold it yet, but ultimately I think that's where we're going. So as that stuff starts to happen, we look at our time travel of water or contaminants underground and how long does it take to get into the water supply. And obviously, water table that's 5 feet deep is much more susceptible to something happening versus one that's 300 feet deep. So at some point, we think it makes sense to start to reconfigure that. That's a little bit longer term plan, but
Appreciate the long-term plans.
I think the bottom line is this, is that, Dave, to answer your question, Patrick's put his finger on it. You may recall we passed all that legislation earlier to protect our well fields. That's an acknowledgement that they are vulnerable. And, I think wisely, we would just want to have redundancy in our system. So if we lose a well field for some reason, we can continue to supply all of our customers. And then we can figure out whether if there's remediations possible or have to discontinue use.
yeah, I mean, the Ohio Division of Water and Ohio EPA and whatnot, they've got standards that, without getting too much into the weeds on the formula, but it goes something like this. If you were to lose your number one major well field, lose the field, what capacity do you have left to meet your needs? And we want it to be a certain percentage above that capacity, so that it's not anything that anybody has to worry about. And so we are always governed in that light. So even if we were to shutter the Dressler fields today completely, and we lost our major well field, with what we have left, it's still enough to meet all of our needs right now.
Thank you.
Yep. I think, Patrick, our rated capacity is about 10 million gallons a day.
I don't have the exact number.
Does that sound
Sorry.
right? Okay, then, 9? Okay, and we're using something less than 6.
Yep. Great, any other comments on
I have
6A?
I have a question. So the tapping process, we don't control that from how it comes in? Like, if there's a contractor that comes in, they control that?
As it stands now.
That sounds like a really bad idea. Like, I don't understand.
Our water superintendent and operations manager and the team, who've been here 40 years, believe that it was a mistake to do that because we've lost control over it. And as a result, it may not be that big a deal in the final analysis because of our cost structure as a result of this move and others, nobody was signing up for it anyway. So again, it comes down to do you want to be in this business or not?
I think it would be important to take control of that, so you have somebody that's an expert for the city. I mean, you could really damage water lines. Isn't there a whole process in tapping into a main line? I mean,
It's just like with anything that you fix, Matt. I mean, you can have someone experienced to do it, or you can have someone inexperienced and in a hurry.
Jeez.
And
yeah. That's a. Thank you for catching that, and proposing it.
yeah, this is part of. I'm not to digress too much, but this is part of what internally we're doing. This is a venture that is largely being run by Ben, of the systematic review of everything that we've got on the books. All these regulations, all these codes, these ordinances, why do we have them? Let's review them. And then under his direction, we're assembling our own internal experts, the department heads, and sometimes it's multifaceted. In this one, it was involved engineering, it involved water distribution, it involved buildings and permits, and we put everybody together and let's talk about what this is, what the problem is, and what are some ideas to kind of work this through. Then legal and finance, and he comes up with these solutions. So
This is communication with the labor staff. In the past, they just did what the ordinances said. I don't think they had that communication with administration the way Patrick has collaborated that now, bringing everybody together, bringing legal in, what Ben's doing, that's having these conversations. And they're very valuable.
So
I think the labor staff feels very valuable too.
They feel, personal morale is incredibly high.
And to Brian Hill's credit, the reason this came to the top of the list is he made an offhand comment in a meeting that, of course, nobody's signing up because we don't do the taps anymore. And then Patrick was like, stop, what did you say?
Jeez.
Great. Well, Eddie?
One more question, and this might be for you, Ben. Do we have a record of all the backflow devices in date of last inspection?
Oh, yeah, backflow, if you have a backflow device, you're required to be inspected annually.
Okay.
Yes, and, you know.
There was a mention of backflow in here, that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, and if I could just elaborate on that, I mean, this is just another example of what I feel, you know, tout our horn again, toot our horn again, great administrative team, looking at it and saying, okay, we didn't particularly care for the backflow process that was before. We didn't think it was efficient, and we think that we had personnel on board that really didn't provide any value for that process. So we did what we thought best here, we researched it, whatever, and we outsourced it. And so now, that was a previous council that put that together, but it was through this administration, and it was, okay, so now you're gonna have to do this on an online process. You get a plumber, he comes out, he certifies it, does his inspection, loads it up onto the data, all goes into the
Real-time
banks,
system.
keeps track of all that stuff, generates renewal letters, I get those letters, I have those devices, and so I get to see how it works. And then we tweak it a bit each year to kind of make it even better. And, in the beginning, the first year, it was something new, and no one really likes things new. But now as we've gotten into like the third year of doing it, we've eliminated those personnel costs. And, you're gonna pay your plumber whatever it is they charge anyway, but then there's a $16 fee.
The plumber pays that. We're with Backflow Solutions Incorporated, BSI, specialists in that field. We had one person with a homegrown Microsoft Access database, and it had a large margin for human error. They did a lot of things just very manually input, fax me these forms and papers, and the plumbers, lost things. This is all real time from an iPad. You can go online, you can check. It's loaded immediately. There's no paper getting lost or stuck in the mail or in a fax machine. And so we've been with BSI for 3 years now.
One of the things I think that's come out of this entire conversation is how important it is to have good water. So protection of that is extremely important. I think we're making the correct steps here, so thank you.
And the management of your system.
Certainly. Okay. All right, thoughts on item 6A? I would make a motion that we add this to the next council agenda.
All in favor?
Second?
Oh, sorry.
I'll
All in
second the
favor?
motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Jamie, 6B.
All right, more water, item 6B. So this is an item that we're going to repeal or replace Chapter 937, the Codified Ordinances, which sets water rates. So this is being done in order to adjust rates as well as clarify some of the regulations. And again, I'm just going through some of the notes that we had in our packets here. So Section 937.01, let's see, after reviewing the Water Asset Management Plan, including a 5-year capital plan and related debt, it looks like they're requesting to increase the 2021 proposed rate increase. It was done at 3%. For 2025 and 2026 to continue to the 5% rate increases for each year through 2026. So we're not going to be doing the 3%, it'll be 5%. 937.04, with the new self-service bulk fill station that was installed over the water treatment plant at Gate 3. That is now open. So it's basically, we're going to request to amend the bulk water fill rate of 1,000 gallons to correspond with business outside rates of greater than 40,000 gallons. So this is going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, changing the rate applied to them. Then 937.06, we're going to add meter regulations language to the permit to permit the city to maintain and replace equipment located inside service location. We're also going to omit a few sections, 937.05 and 937.08. What am I missing, Patrick? Anything? Or any additional information on what I already discussed?
Well, I think that, it should be noted, and we'll give finance here an opportunity to talk about it, but I mean, the finance department was looking at these things, looking years and years ahead, and we're looking at the projects that we've done, the projects that we're gonna do. We also have to recognize that we're in the interest rate, or the economic inflation rate that we're in, and how that affects this, and we believe that sticking to that 3% in years 4 and 5 doesn't make sense. The administration was opposed to it when it was proposed. We believe it should have been 5 across the board, all the way out. And I think that the history since then bears that. Just keep in mind, we opened the water treatment bids for the chemical supplies about a week or so ago, and finished the analysis of them. And I can tell you that you look at the bids, sodium hypochlorite, we're looking at going from 73 cents a gallon for what we needed a year ago, and the best price that we could get, and it's only good for 6 months, is $2.15. That's a 300% increase. And if we look at the other ones, they're between 300 and 400% increase.
I think we're gonna need several of those non-resident customers.
Yes, in a major way.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not gonna go down next week, or, looking at the stuff that we read, we think that this is, although those dramatic increases may not occur again, another 300% or 400%, but we do think it's going to increase again. And at some point, if we don't stay current with this, if we take the approach of a previous council, where we're just going to put our head in the sand and say, we're not going to raise the rates, we're just going to keep it the same, and we know times are tough and all this other stuff. I get that, but if you lose this water business, you're going to see how tough things really get. And when you lose it, it's, you can't get it back. It's just impossible to restore a system that the cost structures are out of control.
So do you think in the future, should you acquire enough of those non-residential customers that some of these increases might be able to be pulled back?
Well, I think as you look at, and it's a great question. I think as you look at this though, Dave, we're talking about this going out to 2026, all right? And the projects that I'm working on put this kind of water in till those facilities, and they're big customers, those facilities are constructed. It's going to take, it's 2023, it's probably not going to be till 2026 that they come online. And the council that's here then, and the administration then, and the finance then, will be pitching, okay, we're at the end of our 5-year plan, now we're forecasting where do we need to be on the next 5-year plan, but taking that into account, we were successful in 23 and 24, 25, bringing on some additional capacity needs that we don't need to do as much on the rate increase. So it does factor in, I guess what I'm saying.
Thank you. Going the opposite direction.
I'm sorry. We also have some debt that will be paid. It's starting to decline starting in 25 and 26. So with the increase in customer base and the decrease in debt, with the information that we have now, I would say yes, is the answer to your question. That we won't have to sustain such high increases.
Unless there's equipment replacements.
Unless there's equipment, right, well, and then we only have the 5-year capital plan. So again, the information we have today says, and remember our goal with the asset management plan, and that was something new that was required by the EPA in 2020, 2021, when they had all these water problems and these other, agencies or entities. They required us to start doing 5-year capital plans and required us to start doing cost analysis and your customer base and all those things. And the target for a water enterprise business is a 12-month carryover. You should carry over 1 year of your operational money, because if something catastrophic happens, you need to be able to cover the cost of that. And so they felt like a 12-month. So our target is to carry over 12 months or a full year of operational cost. And we are gaining ground towards that. So at the end of this 5 years, we'll be at about 11.92 months. So we're really, really, really getting close with 5-year increases. If we don't get 5% increases for the 5-year plan.
Well, I think you might have answered my question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Knowing what Patrick shared about costs of some of the chemicals that we use, going up by, exorbitant amounts, 300%, do we think that 5% is enough?
Yeah.
We do believe that with the increased customer base, we will be able to afford that.
Okay.
Now, again, this is something that we're setting rates 2 and 3 and 4 years out, and it could be something we look at every single year with the budget. So if something changes and we're bringing the budget to you, if that's not going to be enough, you know, Jim and I are clearly going to present that, because it is a business. Water is a business, sewer is a business.
Right.
You know, and so we have to cover our cost. We set rates to cover cost.
Sure. Okay. Any other thoughts?
This is kind of a question, but how much of the increase is based on a lack of not increasing for many previous years? Like, how much catching up are we still doing from
Yes.
that? Is it still, okay,
Huge.
that's what I was
Huge.
Through the next
Right.
4 years, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When, you know, there was a time when, you know, the water rates, an ordinance was passed, because this had happened once before, where council had failed to adjust the rates, and so council passed an ordinance that said, you shall review this at this time. And they didn't review it at that time, and they just let it go. Until new administration, new team comes in and says, hey, this hasn't been reviewed, this needs to be addressed, and then we had to force the issue.
And now it's also reviewed on the budget process too, which is nice. Okay, so that's good.
What year would the 5% start? 2 years from now?
We are in the middle of a 5-year 5%, but
Okay.
in 2021, that ordinance was passed for 5 years, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
Okay.
With the requirement that in the 3rd year, it is reviewed again for the last 2 years. So we are a year ahead of that, but we already know with our 5-year plan that it's not going to be enough at a 3% for 25 and 26.
Anybody else? Any thoughts? All right, with that, I would move that item 6B be moved to the next council agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And, no, I mean, that's potential. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.